first of all, why am I teaching this class? All right. I am not a massage therapist. I've been trained a bit in Swedish and some in shiatsu. That was years ago, though. But one of the things that happened with me was I went to school, got a master's degree in social work, and then I did a bunch of postgraduate trainings. Now, the postgraduate trainings wound up being in all sorts of things in which the mind and body interface kind of came together. One of the first was Ericksonian hypnosis, and hypnosis has been famous for a long time for different things in how the mind and body interact. Another thing that I got trained in is something called neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro-linguistic programming partly came out of hypnosis. The guys who invented that wound up looking at really good therapists. They said, okay, let's model what goes on in the brain. We won't come up with theories. We'll just do models, just like what a computer person would do, you know, this step, this step, this step. And the first three people that they looked at, one was Fritz Perls, who started Gestalt therapy. The second was Virginia Satir, who was a masterful family therapist. She could take a family that was like completely in chaos and in an hour have them hugging each other and crying, you know. The third was Milton Erickson, who was not only a tremendous hypnotherapist, but also he used language very precisely in certain ways. And actually, Erickson influenced not only NLP, he influenced short-term solution-oriented therapy, he influenced family therapy, a whole bunch of other areas as well as hypnosis. So they looked at what was going on linguistically and came up with models and then started teaching that linguistics to therapists. But then they started looking at the nonverbals, and that's when some of the mind-body stuff started to come in. Then I got trained in Hakomi, body-centered psychotherapy. Some of you may have heard about that. It was developed by a guy named Ron Kurtz, who was Esalen Institute's mind-body therapist out in California in the crazy 60s. And he had trained with any number of different people, including Fritz Perls, but he started to put his spin on things himself. What wound up happening was he developed a personality theory and new techniques of working with people, and he didn't want to call it Kurtzian therapy, you know, but he was looking for a name, and the story of how they got the name is really cool because Hakomi, most people think, oh, is that Japanese, you know? No, what wound up happening was one of his students came up to him and said, Ron, I had this dream, and you handed me this piece of paper, and it said Hakomi on it. And Ron said, what's it mean? He says, I don't know. And so they looked in dictionaries, they looked all over, they couldn't find anything. And the guy said, yeah, you know what, I'm going down to see this Hopi medicine man. I'll ask him if there's anything in Hopi. And Ron said, okay, fine. You know, well, one thing you should know about Hakomi is that it's focused on the mind-body interface. It's focused on mindfulness and present experience, nonviolence, and working with just where the person is at. Well, what wound up happening was when the guy goes down to the Hopi reservation, he asks the medicine man, is this a word? And he says, oh yeah, it has two meanings. The modern meaning is, you know, sort of, how are you? But the most ancient meaning is, how do you stand in relation to these many worlds? And that's where they decided, okay, for a psychotherapy that's looking at different levels of how you believe things and whatnot, that was part of it. And that was the label they were going to use. Here, okay? So what happens is, you can directly affect the way we think about things by actually changing the properties. Right? Have you ever had that little internal voice that's, you know, such a pain, you know, that criticizes? Do you have it now? Can you bring it up now? Okay. Bring it up for a second. Okay. Listen to it. Notice how it makes you feel horrible. Now, I have one suggestion. Put the voice in your left big toe. It's your voice. You can do what you want with it. Have the voice coming from your left big toe. What happens?
It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. You're not hearing it.
You can't hear it as well.
Right.
It loses value.
It loses value. Right. Yeah, try having it talking out of your butt. Then the critical voice becomes funny.
Oh.
And wouldn't that be a better state to be in? all right? So all of those things, nobody tells you how you can run your brain, all right? Part of this class will be an owner's manual for your brain too, all right? What can you do to shift things and work around it, as well as maybe give some little things to your clients, you know, without overstepping your boundaries, all right? But being able to listen, to connect with them compassionately, keeping aware of those boundaries both in practice and in skills that you have, knowing where to refer out, but also knowing how to take care of yourself with some additional tools here can be very, very valuable.